Members of Congress won't be in session again until September 10th. While the House of Representatives didn't move its Farm Bill proposal to the floor before the 5-week recess, it did move on another form of assistance. We talked with UNL Extension Public Policy Specialist Brad Lubben this week about what that proposal looks like.
Well, the House did pass a standalone disaster assistance package after they failed an attempt to attach it to a one-year extension of the Farm Bill. We don't want to wrap up the Farm Bill just yet, but we did want to address disaster assistance. At least they wanted to address it before they went home to see their constituents here in August.
Which the House did, but the Senate did not.
The Senate was already adjourned by the time the House passed and sent their language over. So we have something that the House has prepared. We have promises perhaps that will come back to it in September, but we're still waiting on that package to come to fruition.
Once Congress returns, what does that package look like that it might see?
Right. Well, it really reauthorizes what was in the 2008 Farm Bill, which for the first time authorized this permanent disaster assistance package. It reauthorizes everything except for SURE, which was the crop disaster program. The arguments being, at least politically, that crop insurance is a big budget item. Crop insurance has expanded greatly. Perhaps crop insurance isn't necessary. Well, that doesn't cover every crop in the book clearly very well. But what did get proposed in the disaster package is livestock assistance. The livestock indemnity program, which covers death losses due to disaster events like heat and humidity and stress. The livestock forage disaster program, which will help cover those forage losses for livestock producers on grazing land. There's an emergency assistance program for livestock, honeybees, and farm-raised fish. It's sort of the catch-all program that covers lots of losses, disaster events, disease issues, etc. And there's a tree assistance program for orchardists and nursery growers that lose tree stock due to disaster events.
What do the livestock producers need to do if this were to go through? What do they need to look at on their own farm to make sure they can get covered?
I think we can expect it to go through at this point. Whether the standalone bill gets heard in September and covers just 2012, or whether it does still somehow get wrapped up in a broader Farm Bill debate, it does look like we're reauthorizing disaster assistance. And that means that producers do need good records in order to be able to apply for assistance when the time comes. The livestock indemnity program covers death losses, but we need good records of those death losses and good records of the weather events that led to those losses. The livestock forage disaster program is related to drought losses that are measured by the drought monitor, but are also tied to the number of animals in the herd, the normal grazing capacity, etc. So we need good records on the operation in order to calculate benefits for those farms.
I want to ask you about the overall direction of the Farm Bill. General consensus is nothing gets done until after November elections.
Right.
What happens if there's a change to the status quo in those general elections? If the Democrats lose control of the Senate, House, and it becomes lame duck, what happens then?
Well, clearly there is a lame duck Congress that will likely address the Farm Bill again. Nothing gets done before the election. Perhaps a short-term extension gets done in September, pushes off the deadline until December. We have reason to expect rationally that there will be a debate in December because there are two must-have pieces of legislation in December. One's a must-have bill on how you address the expiring tax cuts. A second is a must-have bill on what you do with the budget, given that if you don't do anything, there's this rather dramatic budget sequestration that kicks in January. So two must-have pieces of legislation that look like they're on the docket for December. That might be the time we tie in a Farm Bill. If not, then could a dramatic wave either direction in Congress and the White House change how the Farm Bill debate looks? You could see us push off a temporary extension into 2013 with the expectations that a new Congress really rewrites how the bill works. That's a pretty big challenge considering that the Farm Bill compromise as currently standing saves budget dollars, and the goal was to save budget dollars in order to pay for those cuts that have to happen by the end of the year. So it's challenging to sort of paint a picture as to how it works in the new year, but it's also challenging to figure out when Congress will get the time to debate this.
Congress is in session starting September 10th, and the current Farm Bill expires on September 30th.